Surrounded by Heroes, the name of the book, really goes back to when I was a young man, 20 years old, as a soldier, having the privilege of being a sentinel at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. In particular, many a nights by myself in the 620-acre cemetery, just surrounded by heroes and thinking about the sacrifices they've made in order for me to be able to choose my destiny and the freedom that I had to choose that destiny. As a young man, that weighed heavy on me. And what was that gonna look like? I had no idea as a 20-year-old, quite frankly, but I knew I had the freedom to choose because of that sacrifice. I was reminded by whether it be the honor that we showed to the unknown soldiers before me and or the other virtues that surrounded me, like the vision of the Kennedy brothers, or the justice that was exemplified by Thurgood Marshall, or the faith of a John Glenn, or the courage of Ollie Murphy. These were heroes that we were surrounded by, and that I was in particular surrounded by, that reminded me that I had the freedom to choose a future, but it was needed to be based on values that really mattered. Nowadays, we get so distracted with the noise, the volume of noise that's out there from all the different institutions. And I want to remind Americans, we have so much that unite us, and the glass is truly half full, and that unity is possible if we get back to such roots that made this country so special.
There is no limit to what a man can do or where he can go if he doesn't mind who gets the credit.
I remember living through the years of Ronald Reagan, and one of Reagan's great quotes, and I'll paraphrase, was, "It's amazing what we can accomplish if nobody cares who gets the credit." And that's what American values is all about. It's not about taking a side or allowing us to be divided by polarizing views, because that's what the media would like, obviously, because it sells news. The purpose of the book is unity, the things that truly unite us, which are American values, the things that we agree on, and how they need to be protected and internalized and reminded to everyone, so that we preserve the things that made us special as Americans for our children's children, because it's so important that that vision continues beyond the present day noise.
All right, thank you to Simple Social, who did a great job producing that video, and we are so honored to have in studio Jerry Wallace.
Good to be here.
Jerry, your company way back helped build this studio, and the viewers that are watching helped support it so we could pay for it. But we want to say thank you, because it was a great experience on that front. And you have done something that I believe transcends all ethnic and religious boundaries, and it's a tremendous book to help, really, quite frankly, in my opinion, provide a biblical worldview on what this nation was founded upon.
Amen.
And so thank you for doing that. Before we talk about the book, though, I'd like for you to share a little bit more about your background. They got a little highlight in that video, but you know, you're obviously married for 40 plus years.
43 plus, actually.
Yeah, that's right. And I want to thank you for your service. You've been a professor. So talk about your background.
Well, again, the premise is how God just opened my eyes to so many things as a young man. And it was partly the experience at the tomb as a sentinel, but thereafter being able to take the virtues I learned as a sentinel and being raised in a military family. My father was a career Army officer. And so thereafter, just being able to have the freedom to choose what I was going to do with my life. I mean, when I was in the military, my dad wanted me to stay in the military. He thought I'd be a great soldier and do well, but that wasn't the cloth I was cut from.
Yeah.
So I decided to get out. A lot of people were surprised, but I had the GI Bill, and I went to college. And I decided that I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I knew I wanted to get an education, do something with my life. So, and God honored that. He brought my wife into my life after my first year of college. We got married after I finished my first year. So our first 3 years of marriage, we were struggling college students. She had been in the Marine Corps 4 years, same time I spent my 4 years in the Army. We were stationed a mile apart in Washington, D.C., never met one another.
Wow, Semper Fi.
Yeah, and it was after we both got out, going to college in Florida when we met. So God just gave us plenty of favor. We got out of college and we moved here to Fort Myers, Florida. And that's where I eventually started my construction development businesses and was blessed tremendously through all that. And went through the recession, that was supposed to last a year back in 2007, that lasted 5 years. And more lessons learned as a business person and as an entrepreneur. And eventually when that finally passed, it was, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I knew that I didn't want to stay in construction. It was a good profession to be in, but I wanted something different.
Yeah.
And so I started trying to wind things down. And in that process, which took me many, many years, I decided I'd go back to school, get my doctorate in business management. And I figured, once I finally was able to get all the baggage of my business career off the conveyor belt, I would pursue teaching in the business arena and give back to young students. And so when I finally was able to get there, which is post-COVID, 2020, I ended up moving my wife and I up to Georgia to be near our grandkids.
Wonderful.
And I taught for a couple of years at Point University, which is a Christian university up there, in their business department. And I really did enjoy that. Mm-hmm. But what was still undone was this book. I had spent at least 2 years prior to being a professor working on this book. So it sat and it gnawed on me. And it was like, this book is really my life song. It's because of God's favor, His biblical principles that are throughout His Word that allowed me to live the life I've been able to live with the blessings and favor I've gotten. I need to get this book done. So I told the university last May of last year that I needed to step down on a unlimited sabbatical and focus on getting this book done. So that's where I'm at today.
That's awesome. You're answering your call, and thank you for responding to that call. Again, tell us the name of the book.
Yes, the name of the book is Surrounded by Heroes, because it really deals with, as a young man, 20 years old, not knowing what the future would hold, spending thousands of hours out on the plaza at night in particular, guarding the tomb of an unknown soldier, being the one person out there in 620 acres of cemetery, filled with heroes who replicated so many great virtues and values, and thinking about how, and even though I was a prodigal at the time, I was a prodigal from the years of when I was 15 years old up to the time I was 22 years old. I was kind of a prodigal. So I was searching, but God never left me.
Yeah.
His Spirit always said, this is important, and I listened, but yet I wasn't fully committed.
Yeah.
So my prodigal experience wasn't a one day in the pig pen, it was multiple years. But when I finally woke up, God showed me that time as a Sentinel was instrumental in building a foundation of truth that I could live out.
Well, that's powerful. How did you get selected to be in that role at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier? What is the process like? I mean, that seems amazing to even be selected in that role.
It's a tough process. And again, God's favor once again in my life, because the hard, fast rule to be a Sentinel at the tomb is you had to be 6 foot tall. And I was 5'10" and a half on a very good day. So fortunately, the Old Guard, which is the 3rd U.S. Infantry there in Washington, D.C., which has all the presidential duties there in the D.C. area, in 1979, I was selected Soldier of the Year.
Wow.
So I had a little clout. And I used that clout because I wanted to do something more. And I really wanted to go either to the Special Forces, Rangers, or the Green Berets. And I went and saw my CO, and I said, using my clout, of course, that I wanted to be transferred out unless you give me a chance to be a tomb guard. And he made a way for me. And I'd like to claim since that time, I broke the 6 foot barrier for many other sub 6 footers.
Well, that's awesome. And so you obviously were inspired to write this book, Surrounded by Heroes. Now, for those of you that are watching now, to find out not only about how to get this book, but to get his daily blog. Is it daily blog?
No, we put them out weekly.
Weekly
couple
blogs.
weeks.
And to just stay engaged and updated with what Jerry's doing, go to that QR code right there on your screen and make sure and connect with him. Also, his website, jerrywallace.org. You can be sure to connect there as well. And that information is right there on your screen, and you can sign up to get on that email list. It's very important. I always say, tell your in-laws and your outlaws to get engaged and get a biblical worldview on principles and virtues. And what I love about this is whether you're a believer in Jesus Christ or not, this book can reach somebody where they're at and give them a, if you will, a moral compass or a foundational compass that this nation was founded upon. I love how you've written this book. Talk about some of the virtues that you kind of highlight, and do you remember how many virtues there are? I know you did 12, but how many total is there?
There's so many more than just the 12.
Okay.
I had to slim it down to the ones that affected me as a young man, thereafter as a business person, what have you. And a lot of the ones I talk about are kind of out of vogue in modern day culture. We talk about responsibility and sacrifice. You don't hear those virtues mentioned anymore. Humility is another one. You don't hear those virtues mentioned very much because we're unfortunately such a self-absorbed culture.
You're right.
But those are virtues that make a difference in one's life, and they're biblical principles.
Yeah, I always say humility brings the miraculous into our life. And you also hit on vision as one of the virtues.
Yes.
I think sometimes people go through life and they struggle with identity and purpose. And we know it's our Creator who's the ultimate source to get that.
Right.
But what are some of the virtue principles from the vision topic that you write about? Do you recall?
Well, vision is purpose, and it's believing that God has a unique vision for your life.
That's right.
And then acquiring that and believing it and living it out is what has to follow. In the book, the chapter on vision, I talk about the Kennedy brothers, who were instrumental at allowing us to believe so many things during a very dark time in our country, the 1960s. We were just embroiled with Vietnam and everything else going on. And John Kennedy made the statement that we're going to get a man on the moon before the end of this decade. Sure enough, 1969, it happened because people believed in his vision. And Robert Kennedy was the same way, very visionary. And it's a shame both of them were lost by bullets, but both of them are buried there in Arlington Cemetery, very close to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. They're just examples of the type of heroes that we have in Arlington. We need to be reminded as Americans. They set a course for this country that we need to be united behind, because there's so much more that unites us than what divides us.
Yeah, expound on that, Jerry, about what unites us and not divide us, because hey, united we stand, divided we fall. So talk about that a little bit more, if you would.
Well, the premise of the book is unity.
Wonderful.
And reminding the general public, not just the Christian public, but the general public, that there's so much more that unites us and divides us. Of course, modern media would tell us every day about all the division that there is. But the fact is, we have American values, which we know as believers are Christian principles, biblical principles that unite us.
That's right.
So we may have to dress them differently and call them American values, but there's no difference. Apostle Paul told us, in Philippians 4:8, that these are the type of things we need to think about.
Yeah.
These are the things that matter, and the enemy, as we well know, is full of distractions every day, things to get us off course. And today, more than any other time frame in history, there's more distractions than ever. So we need to contemplate and spend our time thinking about things that really matter, and that's what these virtues are.
That's so good. Yeah, think on the things that are true.
Exactly.
And I think about, we're so connected yet disconnected with the technology age and everything that we're in. And so for you to write a book like this to bring us back, if you will, to the core center, a biblical worldview foundation, but yet connects with people from all walks of life, whether they believe in God or not, whether they're wherever they are on that journey, wherever you are on that journey. That's why I want to encourage you to get connected. Talk about, if you will, the culture where we are in America today. You mentioned about responsibility and sacrifice. Why do you think so many of these virtues are lost in today's modern day culture that we're living in?
Well, there's no doubt the enemy has been working full time to divide us, and things that require humility or sacrifice or responsibility are contrary to today's culture. Even though we as believers, we know it's important, and it's something that we have to day by day have to humble ourselves to. But again, it's what made this country great. And we just need to be reminded as Americans, as well as believers, that there's so much more that unites us and divides us.
Yes. You know, when you look at the political landscape today in America and you see these things, it makes me feel like, wow, you know, this book could be a resource to help us come back to, like you said, unity and to heal this land. And yes, we're so self-absorbed today in America. When you think about the roots of self, which really is the roots to all of our problems, what do you find in these virtues that is really the hallmark answer to helping to address self?
Well, obviously, it's contrary to self.
Yeah.
It starts with humility and humbling ourselves to things that are greater than ourselves. And God's truth is greater than ourselves. You know, the Bible tells us again and again, these are things that are far greater than ourselves. But we need to spend the time and contemplate the significance behind all these things. I told you, the book, what motivated me as an objective on this book is to help the common person to understand that there are biblical principles, and we'll call them American values, but they're the same thing.
Yep.
That unite us and that are so important that we need to focus on and live out. And we would have a lot less of the meanness and the evil and the all the negative things that the media would like to promote.
Yeah.
We'd have so much less of that if people would just get back to those roots.
Yeah, so good. And friend, again, I want to encourage you to go to that QR code and sign up to get on his email list, to get that blog and get those updates. Be informed, be engaged. Now more than ever, it's so important and vital that you get connected to people that speak truth to the culture, and that's what I see this book doing. What is your hope as people pick this book up and engage with, I like to say this is your ministry, but it's your marketplace platform, it's your platform period, that you want people to discover as they connect with this book?
Well, like you said, Paul, this has become my life song. I mean, I had a 35-plus year career as an entrepreneur, did very well, was a business professor for a few years, enjoyed it, et cetera, but I just felt like God had another calling on my life. The whole reason why I didn't stay in the military, because I felt like there was always another calling. And this book's been in my heart for a long, long time.
Wow.
And it's my attempt to remind everyone we have a lot to be thankful for. And because of the sacrifice of so many heroes, inside and outside of Arlington Cemetery, we have the freedom to choose our destiny. And it's not just where we are today, it's where we can be tomorrow also. And, you know, my blog, which people can, when they go to the website, they can read some of the blogs, but one of the first ones I did was last fall. It was football season. And I know a lot of your viewers, if they're football fans, they've noticed that there's particular games where the players don't wear their individual name on their back of their jersey. Instead, they wear a virtue like commitment or sacrifice or courage or something like that. And the blog is about, there's a reason why. Those are things that unite us, things that truly are not self-centered, but that are bigger than self. And those things unite us. So whether it's the football team being inspired and winning the games, or we as Americans being inspired, making sure that we live the example that this country was based on, it's important for that unity to rise above all else.
That's so good. What would you say to a marketplace leader or a business leader that's watching about maybe a virtue that sticks out from what you wrote of the 12? That would help them in business.
Yeah, you know, one of the things about the book, in addition to highlighting heroes of Arlington that exemplified those virtues, I also tried to incorporate application in every one of those virtues. And most of those applications were life experiences on my part and things that have happened, whether it was living through a 5-year recession here in Southwest Florida and having to let many employees go and believing that things are going to turn around, and all the sacrifices that went into living through a recession, and or other things like, you know, I had a business partner for 10 years, and during the recession, he was one of many business owners I knew that took their lives because they lost hope. And we know as believers, our hope's in Jesus Christ, nothing else.
Right.
But a lot of people, they get wrapped up, unfortunately, into a title, into a position, into success, whatever, and that's where they start finding their worth instead of in Jesus Christ.
That's good.
So again, each one of those virtues I talk about, I try to incorporate a life experience that I learned because I embraced that virtue prior to such.
You know, practical truths from these virtues for everyday living. I appreciate that you took the time to, again, as I said earlier, respond to that call to because writing a book's not easy.
No, it's not.
And distributing it out is not easy. So I want to encourage you to help our brother out and get engaged, because you know what? You're making a difference in somebody else's life. I like to say it's a destiny, like you alluded to. And you know what happens in a cemetery is a lot of dreams are never fulfilled in that cemetery. And there's an old saying, the dream that never leaves you is the dream that God assigned you to. And I believe He assigned you to this assignment, and people need to get this information. So I want to encourage you, again, go to that QR code right there on your screen, get connected, or go to the website and get connected. Sign up to at least get on the email list and find out more. And then you just do as you purpose in your heart. But I can vouch for Jerry. I know that I've known him for years, that he's definitely aimed, nobody's perfect, but always aimed to live out these virtues and to honor God in what God has called you to do. And He wants you to find that same healing and unity and restoration. After all, the Greek word for salvation is restoration. So that's, I think that's a hallmark with the platform God has given you, is that you want people to find healing and restoration and that unity. Talk about what are some of the other virtues that come to mind of the 12 that you wrote about that maybe you haven't mentioned yet?
Well, courage is a good one.
All right.
You know, courage, of course, as an entrepreneur, every day you got to be courageous because you're constantly being challenged. So I use the example of Audie Murphy. And Audie Murphy was maybe some people remember him as a Hollywood actor, which is what he did post-World War II. But prior to World War II, he tried to enlist in the paratroopers as a 16-year-old. And, you know, he was 4'11", 115 pounds, not exactly the Rambo type you would think, as Hollywood would depict. And finally, at 17 years old, the infantry took him in. And Audie Murphy became the most decorated soldier of World War II.
Wow.
Won every medal there was for valor, to include the Medal of Honor. And after World War II, of course, he had a career in Hollywood as an actor, primarily a Western actor on cowboy films and what have you. But Audie Murphy, nobody would have thought he had the courage that he had. And his movie, which is a classic, To Hell and Back, is a great story of how he was raised in a broken family, where he was, you know, one of multiple children to a single mom, and how he learned to help take care of the family, and not only prior to going in the military, but thereafter, because he had values instilled in him by his mother.
Powerful. And, you know, I think about, you know, really this book is a book to help people build the character of God, and to build really on the foundation, as you alluded to, that this nation was founded upon, which ultimately was a biblical worldview. And I mean, 37% of pastors believe the Bible is absolute truth. So you've got all these churches in America, all this stuff happening in our culture, but we're not really back to the plumb line, a biblical worldview.
That's right.
So I really believe this book helps shed some light and points people, hey, you know, let's come back to, let's be selfless. Let's not be full of ourselves. Let's come back to courage, and talk about risk-taking as it relates to courage.
Well, that's required. Yeah, it's definitely required. But the problem is, whatever that risk may be, and a lot of times it requires sacrifice. You're willing to make that sacrifice if you have faith. It always comes back down to faith. Sacrifice is always easier to put on the line when you have faith that God's got His hand on you, He has a plan for you, and He has a purpose for your life.
Yeah, and you're hearing Jerry say that, and friend, no matter where you are in the journey, you may have lost it all, you may have went through some stuff like my brother Jerry here, but one thing he kept going on was the faith of God, the faith that's in you. If you just simply, you know, believe in your heart and confess with your mouth, that's what faith is. It's not based on your performance, it's based on what He did on the cross.
Right.
And that's what's so powerful about, you know, our Heavenly Father, who is the creator, you know, of all things and of this nation. And I think about this nation, amidst wars and everything going on, they've still been responsible for 50% of the gospel going out to other countries,
Right.
which ultimately gives us that free will, as you talked about, to choose. You know,
Right.
our loving God is a God who doesn't control us, but loves us.
Right.
And where we are on that journey. And I would say, is love one of the virtues?
It is. It
All
is.
right.
It was the final of the 12 because as I wrote the book, I figured that was going to be the most challenging, with humility as being the other one. But yes, humility and love were latter virtues in the book, so I had more time to contemplate.
Yeah, because God is love. It's not a characteristic.
Without
it's
a
his
doubt.
nature.
And you know what? It's funny because I've growing up in the military,
Sure.
I had to learn Spanish and German, and I never was any good in second language. And people ask me, "Do you speak a second language?" It's like, yeah, but I'm working on it. It's
I'm still
language
working
of
on
love.
my English. Don't
It's
worry about
It's
it.
language of love. Is my point.
That's
It's
right.
like you never achieve proficiency in the language of love.
That's
You're
right.
just growing in it all the time.
That's good. Yeah, well, that's good. We're growing in the grace of God every day, right?
Right.
That's so powerful. Well, again, I want to encourage you to get connected. At least sign up for that email, and every couple weeks you've got a devotional with you, if you will. Is that what you call
Well,
it?
it's value-added content for everyone.
Good.
And that blog, I take a virtue and I discuss it and get into the details of it. As a matter of fact, if you go to the website,
Yep.
upper right corner, you can click and you'll see past blogs. And we usually try to incorporate a holiday that's going on during that month and talk about a virtue that aligns with it.
Great.
You know, whether it be honored during the month of May, which is where Memorial Day and Mother's Day fall,
Yeah.
or other virtues that fall in line with what's going on that month, and we talk about it.
Yeah.
And we expound and we use some content from the book, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all value-added content I think people would enjoy.
All right, and then there's information where you can get that book. Obviously, you're a great speaker, so I want to encourage you to have Jerry come and speak. And whether it's a marketplace event, a faith-based event, a mainstream event, because I know that's where your heart is to get this into the hands of people who would never otherwise engage.
Absolutely, and all that's available on the website. All you have to do is fill in some information, email, et cetera, express a desire for me to come and speak, and by all means, I'll do my best to be there.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for your leadership. Again, thank you for answering the call. And thank you, friend, for staying engaged on Contending for the Faith right here on your Christian television network. Until next week, same time, same place. We'll see you soon.